Everyone always talks about how amazing the Sonos Sub sounds, but I could never justify spending $800 on a subwoofer. Now, at about half the cost, the Sonos Sub Mini is a smaller option, but does it still pack enough punch to justify over $400, which is enough to buy another soundbar or speaker? I'm Eric Welander, welcome back to my channel. I've been using Sonos speakers since 2010, and while I also love Apple HomePods and AirPlay, Sonos has been making reliable home audio for years. Now, over the years, I've been gradually upgrading my Sonos home theater TV setup, starting with a Beam soundbar and adding rear 1SL speakers, and I recently decided to splurge on the Sub Mini. I'm really impressed with the results overall, but let's talk about if it's right for you. The Sub Mini packs dual 6-inch force-canceling woofers with a frequency response down to 25 Hz. Force-canceling means these woofers are opposite each other, working together in a way that delivers strong bass without the vibrations or rattling you might have heard with other subwoofers. There's just one button on the Sub Mini, which is the common Sonos Sync button used to connect up controllers. The Mini lives up to its name, coming in at only a foot tall and a little over 9 inches in diameter. It has rubber feet and ports concealed on the bottom, so it can look nice sitting on your floor, which is where you'll probably want to put it. For connectivity, it supports 802.11a through N Wi-Fi and 100 megabits per second Ethernet. I have mine hardwired into Ethernet since it's close to my server closet where I have lots of Ethernet ports. If you do this, you might want to disable Wi-Fi as well. Having both Ethernet and Wi-Fi connected at the same time can cause issues for some Wi-Fi networks. Well, I paired this sub with a soundbar and my TV, and that's probably what you'll want to do too. You can also pair the sub with basically any non-portable Sonos speaker that aren't stuck on the legacy S1 system. So this includes even the IKEA Symfonisk series of speakers. But this also leads me to one of the downsides I don't like about the Sub Mini. You can only pair this with a soundbar or amp for TV audio. Having right and left stereo speakers is a perfectly good version of TV sound. The only way to do this is to use the Sonos amp, which is already at the cost of a soundbar, and in that case it's really only meant for working with deluxe stereo speakers. But the Sonos Ray is probably Sonos's answer to this problem, as it costs about $280 and can work with the Sub Mini. Now, I've actually tested the Sonos Sub Mini with both my Sonos Beam Gen 1 and my Sonos Ray, so more on that comparison in a minute. The setup was straightforward and easy. Like Apple, Sonos has done a great job making so much of its packaging sustainable and recyclable, which is always great to see. There are probably entire videos talking about subwoofer placement, but just find a clear spot on the floor near your TV and that should be good enough. Then in the app, simply select the room you want to add the Sub Mini to and then pick the Add Sub option. The app will walk you through the rest of the process. But regardless of where you put it, Sonos optimizes the EQ by using their TruePlay technology. Now, this setup requires manual TruePlay with the phone app, which is a little bit of a chore since you need to find a time when the room is quiet and can have loud sounds from your speakers. I have 3 small children, and finding a time when I can TruePlay my living room setup is not always easy. But while some of Sonos' newer speakers and Apple's HomePods automatically tune themselves, the advantage of Sonos manual calibration is that you can calibrate for an area where you sit and watch TV. This area might not correlate to the walls of your room if you have an open floor plan TV area. You might think of a woofer as being something that just adds big bass hits to explosions or music, but Sonos has this setup to add a layer of depth to all your sound. It makes my normal TV setup with rear surrounds way more cinematic, and you can even hear a difference with more bass at softer volumes. And this is true of many types of video, even those that aren't all that bass heavy. But speaking of bass heavy, this subwoofer really takes shows like Drive to Survive on Netflix to a whole other level. This probably depends a little bit on your setup, but Sonos has managed to make it sound as if the sound is coming from the TV rather than the sub itself. You'll just hear more bass in the room. Sonos soundbars and many other Sonos speakers support Apple AirPlay 2. This means you can add them to the Home app and easily stream music to them from HomePods or other Apple devices. If you have a soundbar though connected to an Apple TV, I would just use that for AirPlay 2. Also, using Sonos speakers with AirPlay 2 is probably a topic for another video, so let me know in the comments below if you want to see more on that at some point. Listening to Apple Music spatial audio tracks with my surround setup with the woofer is amazing. In my experience, the music from Apple Music does sound a little better on my surround sound system when playing Apple Music from the Sonos app rather than Apple's AirPlay 2. You can adjust the level of the bass in the Sonos app. Sonos, like Apple, isn't the kind of company to give you lots of customizable controls and settings for audio levels. It's more a set it and forget it and leave it to the experts at Sonos and the software to sort out the details. Moving the Sub Mini between Sonos rooms is also easy enough to do for a movie night or a party. Just unplug and move the Sub Mini to the new location. Then, in the new room inside your Sonos system, select the speakers you want to add the Sub to. Sonos will give you the option to move your existing Sub Mini, and a few quick software steps later, and you're all set. Now, if you've been using Ethernet with your Sub Mini with Wi-Fi turned off, be sure to turn on Wi-Fi on the Sub before moving it to the new location, unless you have an Ethernet plug there. If you're looking to pair this Sub with a Sonos Ray, which is their budget soundbar, I would say go for it. It will still add a nice level of sound. The Ray sounds great in my experience, but only if you're sitting directly in front of the soundbar. Upgrading the subwoofer isn't gonna fix that, but it doesn't overpower the Ray either. I think the Sub Mini is a great addition to Sonos lineup, and I highly recommend it, except if you are debating between adding a sub or rear surround speakers to your Sonos setup for your TV, I would 100% add surround sound speakers first. Regardless, the Sonos Sub Mini is the perfect example of the reason to invest in the Sonos system. While their products are expensive, they are reliable and well made. Even if you don't buy the Sub Mini today, getting a Sonos soundbar always gives you the option to upgrade to this in the future. If you buy a stereo pair of HomePods for your TV sound, you don't have that option. But if you're interested in a pair of stereo HomePods for your TV, I have a video here to check out. As for me, I'm sticking with my Sonos setup for my TV and using my HomePods elsewhere in the house. But that's a story for another video. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.